Well, hello, everybody. It is Wednesday afternoon at that magical time, 3 p.m. And you don't notice a difference. There's no D for the DNA show. It's only the A show today, which means awesome. Dennis is on a little family trip, one of his vacations throughout the year that he likes to take. Must be nice. But that's okay because I enlisted some friends, some fine, fine gentlemen, the coolest you'll ever meet, except for Aaron Lopresti, that is. And I say that because he's not here yet. So we'll talk about him first before he gets here, because that's what happens when you're not on time. Darn it. All right. First up to the stage is Mr. Sergio Cariello. Hello.
Hello.
Happy belated birthday by what? When was it? 2 days ago? Yesterday? Today? I don't remember.
No, it was last month. It was April 23rd.
Oh, last month?
Last month.
Ugh. You came in the back room like, hey, I just turned 60. I thought it was like really recent. Last month doesn't count. In fact, I think I wished you happy birthday on Facebook. I should remember these things.
Yeah, I know. I can't keep track.
I know. All right. Coming up next, he's in the green room, literally. And that's Rob Hunter.
I had a birthday in September. Wish me happy birthday.
Happy. No, it's like after Labor Day, that whole thing about wearing white or whatever. I can't until your birthday's too close now.
I miss you guys. I miss CrossGen.
No.
I said I wouldn't cry.
I know.
No cry over here.
Don't cry. Don't cry. You only cried a few times at CrossGen, and that's usually when Mark Alessi came around your desk. So.
Oh, that was rage. That was anger. That was tears of rage.
All right, and then last but certainly not least, the guy that has written so much stuff that I could start reading it today, and I'd probably die before I got to the end of it. That's how much stuff he's written, and it's Chuck Dixon.
Hey.
So hey ho! I sent Aaron just a message saying Aaron Lopresti ! So hopefully he'll get that and be like, oh
yeah, I had a place I had to
realize. Yeah, I should just call him and put him on speakerphone and see what he says. I might do that, actually. We'll just see if he actually answers, and then I can really bust his chops. This is the type of show we do here. Let's see. Let's see if everybody can hear the ring.
No.
Well, if it goes through. Oh, there it goes. Can you guys hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. Calling Aaron Lopresti.
Usually people call in. We're calling out.
Yeah, we're live. In fact, I have you on speakerphone so everybody can hear you. So.
Okay. Thanks for reminding me. I totally forgot. I'll be on this second.
I hate you. I mean, thanks.
So, when did CrossGen officially die? 2004, or did they?
That's a good question. Who was? Well, Rob, I love how you like to go out of order. We're not going to go in chronological order. Who was there till the very end? Any of you guys? Because I wasn't. I know when I left.
I was there.
Oh, you were? Oh, so when did it actually end? When did it actually go down?
I don't remember.
I think Sergio watched them lock the doors.
I know.
You did not.
From out a window.
It had to be damn close. I think I was away. I was back in Pennsylvania when it actually closed. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I know you guys haven't seen this little clip that I like to do to introduce Aaron, and I usually don't do it that much anymore, but because he's late, I'm going to. So this is Aaron's introduction.
Got bigger, pretty face and a real nice figure. Shoot your shot, pull.
Do you see how big that black one was?
Oh, Aaron.
That's a great intro.
What's
wrong with you?
This is a perfect example of what the creative editing can do to a person's career.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not a deep fake.
Gentlemen,
Aaron,
I'm late. Did I miss anything? Okay. Probably not. We're talking about CrossGen, right? I remember it all very vividly.
Okay, so I don't remember. Were you there until the very end, or did you bug out before?
Well, you remember that first round of firings or layoffs or whatever you want to call it, right? Where you,
yeah.
I was still there for a little bit, but then I started working at home because I was strategically getting work from Marvel, knowing that the ship was sinking. So I was kind of moving in and out. But I was pretty much there in Florida and connected to the office until the bitter end. Yes.
Which was
Okay.
2004. Did it make it to 2004?
I thought it made it almost to 2005 because I left halfway through.
Yeah.
I left in, I think, October or the fall of 03.
Yeah, it was almost to 2005.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gone in 2003 also.
No, wait a minute. Maybe I wasn't there. It's all.
I didn't think you were there either.
Blurry.
Actually.
It was Sergio and Perkins were like
Yes,
the last guy still working there.
Perkins told me he had to because his visa was tied up with CrossGen still.
Okay.
In the lawyer stuff. So he said he literally had to, like, they owed him when they finally went under like over 20 grand or something, but he was just like, they were still doing his visa stuff for him. So until Marvel took that over, he had to stick it out with CrossGen till the ship was like down, like underwater.
I just remember it was a ghost town there for quite a while.
Yeah.
Chuck, were you there till the end, or did you leave early?
Yeah. No, I wasn't literally there at the end because I went back to Pennsylvania for a few weeks, but I wasn't there, but I was there when they were coming through, basically measuring the place, taking inventory of what what everything was worth.
Oh, wow. It must have been depressing.
Yeah, I think
so Joe Bernardo must have. I've got Wikipedia open, and Joe must too. Either that, or he has a great memory. But Wikipedia pretty much says what Joe said, which is 2004 Disney Publishing on November 15th. Disney purchased CrossGen's assets for $1 million. And I remember that too because they just wanted
a bad as head.
It was $500,000. It wasn't $1 million.
Oh, really? I thought it was $1 million.
And it didn't close immediately as soon as it was sold.
Right. Yeah,
It still stayed open for a while. No, it was because I don't know if any of you guys met with that. I guess you didn't. There was a guy that was going to I can't remember his name. He was going to bid too.
Oh yeah, I actually worked for him for a little while.
Oh, okay. Well, they blew him. He can only get up to 350,000.
Yeah, he was pretty cool to me, but he also, I could tell he wasn't in the game, the comic book publishing game, not long term. He spent money for like less than a year and then he was just done. He quit.
Yeah, I think he just wanted to put out one comic and then he was happy. I think he wanted to do it. He could sit behind the table at the convention and get fan adoration, like that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm,
yeah,
mm-hmm. Like he had a number in his head. He'll spend a
you put out one book,
and after
that, that's all that happens at a convention. So,
I left and like late spring, early summer of 2004. So I guess they were still hanging on just before, because we sold our house and moved, like I think in June, and headed back to Oregon. So I guess I wasn't there for the final days, but it was close enough.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember that big meeting we had when Mark said we could start doing freelance work?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's telling us we could do freelance work, and my phone was on quiet and it was buzzing, and it was a Christian comic company trying to get a hold of me to hire me.
So, really?
I was like, what?
Do you guys remember we would, like, during lunch break, we'd go in that backfield behind the and there was usually like 3 or 4 people out there. We were all about 50 yards apart from each other, so no one could hear what everybody else was saying, because we didn't trust anybody not to like turn us in. So we'd be out there going, "Oh no, I'm just talking to my wife." We were calling Marvel or DC or whoever to try and line something up.
Yeah.
But Casada flew down and met people for dinner. Remember that?
Yep.
I was
not all.
I remember hearing about it like a few days after it happened and going, really? What?
I know what happened. Yeah. Why wasn't I there?
Yeah, I wasn't there either. I was there for the meeting with was it Matt Idelson?
No, that was
Mike
after I
Martz.
left
It was
then.
Mike Martz. Mike Martz. I was there for a Mike Martz dinner.
All
Like
those,
that.
No, I don't
where
remember
was
that either.
I? These guys were, I was talking to these guys on the phone. I didn't know about any of this stuff.
Yeah, Mike
No,
was
neither did
he
I.
was in Florida for vacation. He was good friends with somebody, I can't remember, and a bunch of us just were at like some restaurant. Like I remember sitting at a picnic table, like the outside part of the restaurant, and we're all talking about stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, and how CrossGen was dying, and I remember just going like, "Oh, this isn't going to lead to anything." And then I'm working for Mike Martz at DC a couple years later, so I'm like, "Oh, I'm glad I went to that dinner."
Well, I was working with
Wow.
Marvel when I went to Marvel, so I don't know how I missed all this stuff. Maybe because Andy, we were in that other building, remember? And maybe
Yeah, but I think the Casada thing happened before we went to that building, but I'm not no, it couldn't
No,
happen.
no, that was
because-
after.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
we
after.
thought things were still good because we went to that separate building thinking CrossGen was expanding.
Right.
right, we wanted the lights on because all that being in dark
Oh, I
all the
know.
time just drove everybody nuts.
Mhm.
So it was you, me,
Yeah, yeah.
Jeff Johnson. I think Drew Geraci was over there.
Yeah,
Yes.
Drew was over there. Was that
Man,
it? Was it just the 4 of us? Or no,
Yeah,
5 of us?
I still remember
Us three.
Alo, his vomiting joke. You did such a good job with the water. He
Oh,
goes,
yeah.
That's not how you make vomit noises.
Well,
You gotta get
but-
water in it.
That's what we did, right? Because we had Jeff Johnson. We spent the whole time him teaching me how to juggle when we were over there. I finally learned how to juggle thanks to Jeff. So
No one got any work done, and we all had to go back.
we had the
A
lights on so we could see. So no, you know what I did when Rick Magyar took over as art director, and you knew everything.
Yeah.
We were getting information fed to us by Bart's brother because he was the
Yeah.
accountant guy.
CFO.
And so we kind of knew what was going on. And so I had all this vacation built up that I hadn't taken. So I took a week vacation and I flew to New York and met with Marvel and DC people. And Magyar started calling me when I was supposedly on vacation at home.
Oh.
And my wife would be like, "Oh, he's not here right now. He's not here right now." He called me when I was in New York, and I was standing there with Walter Simonson outside of what's that college, SAV, whatever it is that
Oh yeah, school visual arts.
School
that's
SBA
right.
or whatever. Yeah, that Simonson was teaching a class. We were standing outside, and Magyar calls me, and I'm like telling Walter, I'm like, shh, 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 shh. And so I'm sitting there lying to Magyar on the phone that, oh yeah, I'm up by the pool or whatever. And he was like, I can't even remember why he called. It was the dumbest thing. It's like, well, when you come back, we need you to, I'm like, you couldn't wait to talk to me when I got back. He probably suspected that I was actually in New York. But so Walter was like, after the phone call, he goes, I feel somehow dirty, like I was involved in some sort of scam or something. I go, oh no, don't worry about it.
That's the only thing I feel bad about CrossGen. I had to lie to Rick once, so we're in the same boat, Aaron.
Yeah.
He when Jeff Johnson left, he took the artwork for Way of the Rat 1 with him,
Oh right.
and Rick Magyar came around asking if I knew if Jeff took it, and I did because I had some of the pages Jeff gave me,
Sure.
and I just
You're
had
not
to
gonna throw
say
him under the bus.
I don't know anything about it. I'm sorry, I don't know anything about it. So.
Well, Rick was
Yeah.
the thing with Rick was I mean, I didn't feel like I could trust him not to, you couldn't like say anything to him and it wouldn't get back. And plus he was hiring people when they knew they didn't have any money to pay him.
Right.
And I mean, I know he was in a difficult spot himself, but I mean, that's why Bart left, was because he was, put in a position where he couldn't be honest with the talent they were hiring
Right.
because of the finances. And so he just,
Yeah.
Well, I think Rick was a believer. I don't think Rick was telling anybody anything that he didn't think was true.
Oh, really?
Right.
Okay.
I really don't, because there were lots of promises. Things.
Yeah, I
that
mean,
were
Mark could
2
spin
weeks
stuff
away
really
from
well.
everything getting turning around. All the time.
Yeah. We'll have to get some money in any day now. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. But it was a tough situation. I mean,
Yeah.
Is this actually? It says, "Hey guys, it's Ashley stopping by to show y'all some love." Well, hello.
Oh, very cool.
That would be
Very cool.
Mark Alessi's daughter. Hello. Well, one thing I want to talk about was like how everybody got hired and stuff. I'll go last. Sergio, how you know, I mean we know these stories, but obviously people watching don't. So how'd it work out for you to get hired there and such?
I think it was a combination of you and Chuck contacting me. I think you told me later that you saw some stuff that I was doing for Deathstroke or Ezreal, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chuck worked with me on Wildcat, Catwoman, and some other, and did we work on your book before CrossGen, Chuck? That book,
Iron Ghost.
Iron Ghost? Was
No,
that?
no, we did that at the tail end of CrossGen.
Yeah.
Near the end. Okay. Yeah, but
I mean, we knew each other. We were friends.
Right. Yeah.
Beforehand. So.
But I think Andy, it was you who decided to hire me, wasn't you?
Well, I know I suggested you and stuff because if I remember correctly, Mark liked the Kubert's work, you know, the Kubert brothers and Joe and all that. And, you know, I knew your work and really liked it. And obviously it had that flavor to it. And, you know, I think I probably talked to Bart about it and stuff and whatnot. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it went
Chuck,
down.
weren't you involved in the
probably
me too, Chuck?
Yeah, I remember Andy coming around, so we're thinking about Sergio, and I'm like, yeah, cool, let's get Sergio.
Yeah.
He you were a good fit.
Yeah, both of you contacted me. I know that, but I don't remember the details of. And then Bart Sear was the official invitation. Bart Sear.
Yeah. And you came down, and I think before Crux, did you do any fill-in stuff, or did you just jump right on with Crux? I'm trying to remember.
Jump right on Crux.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, because they just gave Apting the.
And you guys doing that pirate book, right?
Yeah, I gave Epting the pirate book.
Right. Yeah, you created.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all very unofficial.
Right. Well, and that was the fun part. I mean, we'll get to that, but so you worked on Crux with Chuck.
Right.
Rob, your story was, I believe, I was at
Marvel, and I was working on Iron Man, and I was always sending out samples to everybody, like trying to get work at DC. My page rate was pretty low at Marvel, so I was just trying to get other work, and I heard about the CrossGen and this company in Wizard, and they were advertising every month. And there was lots of rumors about how well they paid. So I'm like, man, I got to get in on some of that action. So I sent in samples, and I think Gina or Mark saw the samples. Yeah, like Mark saw the, the ink pages, the Iron Man pages and stuff. And at that time, I was inking. They'd had me help out on Iron Man over Sean Chen. So the first issue I did, the inks were a lot simpler, a lot more straightforward. So I think that's Mark like that, because at that time, Mark was hiring, CrossGen was hiring a lot of, it was very DC looking stuff. And those Iron Man pages, those early Iron Man pages were it was just a simpler line way. It was more DC-ish, DC-like.
Right.
So. I
remember you were brought in
for Sergio.
You were brought in to ink,
not for Sergio.
Andrea. Yeah.
Right. Which it's just weird because Andrea was wanted to be a Buscema artist. Right. He wanted to draw like Buscema without drawing like Buscema.
Yeah, I mean, I have. I think it's issue 19 of the first actually on my spin rack because I thought you guys made a good team. No,
they made a good team.
It did. Well, Mark kept telling me I could do more, and I thought that makes Andrea look like Dale Keown. And
now, would he be able to do 2 books a month or no?
When he said do more, I thought he wanted me to influence Andrea's pencils more.
Yeah, do
So-
some more
I know
interpretation.
I know that we pencilers, we had to do 1 page a day, but what
Same
about
with
the
Inker. Yeah,
Same
Inker
with
same.
Yeah, Inkers
Yeah.
was the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what because I never helped out on other stuff because my inks became more and more top count, more Joe Weemsy and stuff. So it didn't really fit any of the other books, and it made Andrea crazy. The more I made him look like Top Cow.
You ate me on Crux, and I think you look great.
Well, thank you. Well,
Yes,
you had
that's
me
right.
looking
You look
at
good.
Scott Williams. Yeah, I was looking at a lot of Scott Williams at the time. Remember that? Remember
Yeah.
the whole we were looking at Scott Williams stuff. So that was
Yeah.
That is high praise indeed. Sergio never likes who inks him.
I know.
What is it?
he's trying to be
High
nice.
praise. Sergio is tough on people that ink him.
I'm tough. I
yeah.
remember that I was tough on Roland Paris, who was my initial inker, and I remember he got upset because I kept busting his chops about, oh, what about this and this and this and this, and he blew it. He blew it off.
Well, I think Roland was just starting out. Like,
Yeah, and you had Big Mark Farmer.
he wasn't like seasoned. I don't even think he had a few years under his belt. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't honestly
No, he
remember.
seemed fairly young to me.
Yeah. His stuff was pretty new. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you came on to ink me, I told Bart that it looked pretty good.
I learned a lot looking at all that Scott Williams photocopies that you gave me and showed me. So it was pain in the butt, and it was fun all at the same time because, man, who misses the CrossGen getting paid every 2 weeks and getting to work with your friends every day?
Right.
I miss that. I miss that every day. That was
same here.
That was the best.
Yeah.
Atmosphere.
Yeah,
You know,
we can
be walk around.
Well, I think the thing is with this group here that all of us actually worked well in that structured type setting that Mark had.
Yeah.
Whereas there were definitely artists that didn't, like Jeff.
No,
super
you made him
structured.
crazy.
You know, I reached out to Jeff about coming on, but he is he's traveling today from a con over in Greece, so he couldn't be here.
Wow.
But yeah, like Jimmy Chung wasn't made for that atmosphere.
Well, you had the night crew, the guys that didn't want to be there during the day.
Yeah. Well,
which just
Jimmy's
drove
a cover
Mark
guy.
crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like Mark, you got to realize, it's like, dude, as long as the work gets done, who cares if they come in at 2 PM and stay till 2 AM?
Well, I think Gina was more upset about it than Mark was.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Because I'd roll in at 11 in the morning. And she said,
Yeah.
you have to be here at 9. I said, how many months ahead am I?
Yeah.
How many artists are out there working on my stuff right now?
Yeah, that's the thing too. To me, to do 1 page a day was like I was doing
I know. It's like, give me more.
Yeah,
But,
I was.
Well, Pelletier just ignored that rule.
yeah.
Oh yeah. 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 I mean, he was a machine too. He was good
God.
for that too.
Oh my God.
I actually slowed down working on Mystic because I kind of felt like this was my last chance, and that I really needed everything I did to be, as good as it could be. And so I still met, my deadlines. I was doing 5 a week, but every once in a while I'd be there on a Saturday, making sure I got that 5th page done. But when Bart talked to me, I was at San Diego, and Bart talked to me about, coming on to CrossGen, and he gave me the big sales pitch and all this kind of stuff. And so I was thinking about it because what had just happened to me was I had just got on X-Men, and then Ethan got my X-Men editors fired, and I lost my X-Men job that was going to, vault my career to superstardom. And so that I was sitting there with nothing, thinking, oh God, what am I going to do? And then, I ran into Bart at San Diego shortly after that. And Shelley didn't want to move, but I was like, what do you want to do? It's a job. It'll probably only last 2 years. In fact, I know I told her that. I said, we get 2.5 years out of this. And that's exactly what happened, because I worked for several months at home while we were trying to sell our house. And then we moved to Florida, and then we got 2 years almost exactly before things got bad. And
that's what Mark promised me. He said, I promise you at least 2. He goes, I promise you 2 years.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
You got to go into it's like anytime a startup company, you got to know that, probably best case scenario, you're going to get 2 to 3 years before they go under, because other than Dark Horse, and Dark Horse was very fortunate they were able to get licensed stuff like Aliens and Predator to keep themselves afloat, or they would have gone under.
The boom, and they were there for the boom too.
Yeah.
They made a lot of money on the Alien stuff.
That's true. But most startup companies, man, they just do not last. They can't compete with Marvel and DC, although Marvel and DC is helping all of us now by being so bad. But back then, that wasn't the case. And it's just the market just was not big enough for these companies. So you had to go in realistically knowing that, if I get 2 years out of this, well, we'll worry about that when the 2 years is up. And that's pretty much what happened. We all got to negotiate our salaries, and I told Bart what I needed to move down there. And Mark wasn't thrilled with it. I guess I found out later, but Bart's like, yeah, okay, we can do that. And then I don't know with you guys at all, but there was like when guys came in later, who was the guy that was doing Matt something that was doing
Matt Smith?
Smith.
The Magnolia stuff.
Yeah, that came in like later. And there was, people were finding out information about who was getting paid what, and they were, then they were talking behind other people's backs, specifically mine. And so I had to confront a couple of guys and about that, what I made was none of their freaking business, and to worry about themselves and to quit, backstabbing me because I made more money than they did, or whatever the case was. And but it was an interesting situation, because we were on salary, we were getting health care, we were having only to work 5 days a week, we get the weekends off. It was the weirdest experience of my life, but it was so interesting because my kids were both small, so I had weekends off for 2 years, like a regular job. And I really kind of liked it. I was starting to get used to it. And then it was like, they started to go under, and it was like,
when no.
I know there goes my gravy train. But when I hooked up with Marvel, I was, and Andy, you'll remember this, and you probably too, Rob, because you guys were back there with me, but I was working on Captain Marvel pages while I was doing Lady Death or something like that. Whatever they were throwing me to kind of keep things afloat. And so I literally for 6 months worked on CrossGen projects during the day, and then I would go home and draw Marvel at night. And so I was working probably 12 to 16-hour days, 7 days a week for 6
trying to keep both masters happy.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, I was gone by then. I never saw. I bet the Lady Death pages were cool.
Yeah, they were all right.
Yeah, no, actually, dude, you started doing that Marvel stuff when you were still working on Miss Mystic.
Yeah,
because I was gone when you were working on Lady Death too. But I remember you drawing the.
Well, you were inking. You and Rob were inking the last couple issues of Mystic.
No, I only inked one page over you.
No, I started inking Mystic.
I got more than that.
And then I had to move, so I took my vacation so I could move all my stuff out of my apartment into a lot cheaper apartment because CrossGen was going under.
Right.
And then I hear while I'm moving that I'm going to get fired because I haven't been there all week. And I'm like, they're like, well, did you ask if you could take vacation? And I said, no, I told you I had to take vacation because I had to break my lease because remember they said, hey, this is what we're going to be able to pay everybody.
Right.
Remember that that meeting? And I'm like, well, I can't afford my apartment at that amount. So I had to immediately go find a roommate. So that's what I did. I moved to West Chase and got a roommate and broke my lease. So
And that's when Rob started, messing with the chicks, man. He had like 2 or 3 women roommates, and it was getting. That's why he wasn't coming in.
no,
That's right.
I know, no,
He
no,
was
no.
free company in it. He's like, no, ladies, I'm gay. Trust me. They were
No,
young. They never saw the show.
No, it was booze and
Like-
buddies. I
He's
had
like,
to,
you
I had
haven't
to
seen
dress up
three.
like a woman.
You're not fans of 70s sitcoms, are you? They're like, no, we were just born in the 90s. He's like, perfect. I'm gay. I'll never worry about looking at you awkwardly. So feel free to walk around naked.
Yeah, if you
It,
feel
wor-
like
it worked out. It worked out fantastic. So
No, but Andy, you inked at least 1 issue of Mystic because I've got.
No, I didn't.
Dude, you're high. I'm gonna go back and.
Dude,
pull
I
the
did
pages.
not.
Did Matt Ryan?
Dude, I inked 1 page over you, and that was it.
No, that is not true. You inked more than that.
Well, it
Your
might have been
memory's
2 or
failing.
3, but I did not ink a full issue.
I did ink some pages over you, Alo, because you were like, "Hey, thinner lines on those faces, Rob."
Andy, how did you get started? I never knew.
How did I get? Oh,
Yeah.
So I was at the first before CrossGen, before they even had a building. It was in 1999, and Mark was at MegaCon, and we were sitting down in the hotel lobby or something, and he was pitching this idea of what he wanted to do, and I was there. I think Brandon was there.
And Bart.
I'm trying to remember who else was. Oh, I know John Beatty was there because John Beatty kept telling Mark, "It's never going to work. You're crazy. It's never going to work. You're crazy." and Mark couldn't stand here and stuff like that, and he would be like, "Oh, I'll bet you money it's going to work." And John's like, "You're full of it," because John's that overly loud type. And but there were 5 or 6 of us there, and then the next thing I know, I'm trying to remember because I was living in Florida or living in Orlando, and a few months went by. MegaCon at that time was, I don't know, maybe it was either spring or summer show. I don't remember the exact time, but I remember it was late 99 going into 2000, and the company started, and I remember they put something out, kind of like Rob, what you were saying about
Like a
hiring
Taylor
and
search.
whatnot.
Yeah.
And I did. I sent some stuff to to Brandon, because Brandon Peterson was the original art director. So, the original staff, for those watching that don't know, it was going to be 4 books. It was going to be Brandon Peterson and John Dell working on a book, because they hired, there's going to be 4 books, 2 established artists and 2 new guys. So the established guys were Brandon Peterson and Jimmy Chung, and the new guys were Josh Middleton and Steve McNiven. I don't know where either of those guys went. Just kidding. They're both doing just fine.
Wait a minute, wasn't the brothers, the Lie brothers?
Oh, and the Lie brothers, right?
Yeah,
and oh my God, I just remember their last name Lie. I can't remember their first names now.
Ben? Was it
L-A-I.
Ben?
I'm looking down because I have the trade paperback. It's too far away.
And then, did Mark buy the MegaCon?
Yeah, so here you go. Ashley, good thing she's here. Ashley said, started 99. Gina and her dad, Mark and Brandon were writing and recruiting. Yep. And they ran a wanted ad. So that's probably where I saw it after.
That
after
wanted
because
Wizard talent search.
Because at MegaCon, like I said, he was just talking about the idea. There wasn't even a building yet, at least not that he mentioned. Maybe there was, but he didn't mention it. And Marcus, by the way, Aaron says Mystic 42 has inker credits of Matt Ryan and I. So maybe I did split the issue with him, but I never inked the full one. Anyhow. And if I did, where the hell's my cut? Because I don't sell my art. That's why I think I only inked 1 page, because you got it back. Anyhow,
Aaron got it all back.
And then you became art director with Bart Sears.
That's right.
Yeah, but that was a year and a half in. So I sent stuff in, and this is before they announced like who they had, like Jimmy and the Lie brothers and Steve and whatever. I got a letter back from Brandon saying, because I knew Brandon. Oh, Ben and Ray Lie. That was it. Thank you, Ashley. Saying, they hired who they needed to. and basically, when they expand. So long story short, so the 2 writers they hired, because they needed all the art teams. So it was Mystic, Scion, Sigil, Meridian, and then Steve was actually hired to kind of be a fill-in guy, if I remember right. So it was those 4 books, and then Steve would do like fill-in stuff because he was like artist in training or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the 2 writers were, Ron Mars and Barbara Kiesel. And Ron would write 2 books, and it was Scion and Mystic, not Miss Mystic, but Mystic. And then Barbara did Sigil and Meridian. And Ron wanted to, and this was kind of a behind the scenes, you can almost say backdoor type thing. Ron, I know I mentioned it to Bart, like, dude, I think you'd be awesome there. So the 3 of us were talking, and we figured, if Ron can get Bart in the door, then he'd need an inker. And I was like, well, I don't really want to ink because most of my career has been penciling, but right now I'm actually inking Daryl Banks at DC on Green Lantern. So what's, a lateral move basically. And I thought it'd be fun. Like all of us, 9 to 5, get paid every couple of weeks, benefits, so on and so forth. So, Bart flew down and met with Mark, and they got along, and got offered the gig. And that's when it was, okay, we're going to do 5 books, just 5. We're not going to go past 5 for at least a year or 2. Keep it small and tight. And, I came in, and it was under the impression that, Bart would do the first, I would ink it, and then eventually he'd move off the first, and I would take it over, which is what happened. Well, I did some fill and penciling first on Meridian, Sigil. I thought, Negation, and then the first. But then the company just, oh man, it wasn't that long because I moved. I remember for a fact, I moved in June of 2000 is when I moved there to start working. And, God, when did you come in, Chuck? I'm trying to remember.
I signed the contract September 2001.
Okay, so it was like almost a year and 3 or 4 months after I started, and then it was
May
just,
of 2001.
What was that, Rob?
I got there in May of 2001.
Okay,
so like almost a year after you.
And honestly, guys, my memory is just Aaron. Who was first? You or Sergio? I think you were, weren't you, Aaron?
I was
Aaron was
first. Because I started working in September about the same time Chuck did, but I didn't move until January of 2002.
Yeah, okay. that makes sense.
Well, I didn't actually come down until March of 2002.
Right.
So I wasn't in.
So I was probably there a month or 2 before you were. At least.
Wait, you came down though to visit and stuff. Though
I came down and visited a few times.
Yeah, okay.
And I started writing.
Yeah.
But I didn't show up until March, and remember they didn't have an office for me, so Bedard and I were sharing an office.
They were still fixing the hole in the wall that Mark Wade left, and you were going to get that office.
Well, I did, but they never fixed it. They put
you got to hang a picture over it.
John Smith put gaffer's tape around it to preserve the hole.
That's right. Now here's one I don't remember either, Chuck, or any of you guys might remember. Was Tony was after you, right? Bedard?
I think he was simultaneous.
Or same time?
Yeah.
Didn't they bring Tony in as he was assisting Mark Wade or something?
No, because I don't think he was assisting.
No.
I think, I'm not real sure what happened there, but they knew Wade was leaving.
So when Wade left, Tony came in too.
Yeah, I think he came. Okay. I think we were both hired in the wake of Wade leaving.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I think we were all sort of hired at the same time because.
Yeah, but I thought Wade was there past September. Well, he definitely was because remember we were all there on September 11th. I had the small TV on my desk.
He was still there when I showed up because we would do those proofreading roundtables, and I sat in on a couple of them with Mark. because he finished up what he was doing and then took off. But
I remember there was, I can't remember what it was, but I remember a time, you were obviously in the office and a name had to be created for something. I don't remember what it was for. I don't remember even what the name was, but I remember Mark was tasked with creating this, coming up with this name. I don't think it was a book title, but he was tasked with, and he just had this like mini meltdown about, oh, I got to come up with a name. I need more time, blah, blah, blah. And you were there, Chuck. And I remember, I'm pretty sure you were like, just here, use this or whatever. And I think whatever it was like, that's great. We'll use that.
Yeah. So, Mark made a big deal about it. And Chuck was like, here's the name.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. Here's the name.
For a book or for the company?
Wasn't
I don't
it
know
the
if
barbarian character?
It might. I think it was a character. It wasn't a book.
I think it was the character.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because when I took over Crux, I didn't know anything about it, and I read it, and I still didn't know anything about it. I said to Mark, "What the hell is this about?" Right? And he goes, "Well, I kind of created it while I was driving here from my apartment one day, and basically this character is this DC character, and this other character is this other DC. So it's basically just 4 DC characters, in a team up."
Oh wow!
I'm like, okay,
smashed together.
So I just took it from there. And my first meeting with Steve Epting was, I said, I want to talk to you about my plans for Crux. I said, I have a 12-month plan. I said, in 12 months, you and I are going to do a pirate book. We're going to get off the book. I said, because you're totally wasted on this piece of crap. You're doing this gorgeous artwork, and the only reason to get the book is to look at the pages.
Yeah,
right.
And so we started doing the pirate book without permission.
Right.
I remember they brought me in. They told me Mark negotiated what I was going to get, and I'm like, well, that is more than what I was making at Marvel. And he goes, and I go, but that's less than what I heard when you guys were hiring people. And he goes, well, you're going to just be the fill-in guy, so it's a pretty good amount to be the fill-in inker guy. And I'm like, okay, fine. And then first day I'm there, I'm pissed off because I don't even have a table. I'm like, I got a table at home, man. I could just work at home. They're like, no, we'll get you a table. So they throw me off in an aisle with a table and a file cabinet. And
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is going great. And they're like, oh, and then people start congratulating me, saying, hey, you're going to be the regular inker on first. And I'm like, okay, great. Where's my raise then? Because you hired me and I had a negotiation with Mark of this is what I'm going to make because I'm a fill-in guy. Now I'm all of a sudden I'm on a regular book, but it's the same money. And I'm just like, well, isn't that convenient that it worked out that way? Who's lying to me? And I'm like, oh, this is a great way to start.
Well, I remember now that I think about it, we had a meeting with Mark. We came down in October of 2001. And that's when we met with Mark and, signed the deal and whatever else. And then went and found I don't know, Andy, you must have got us someplace because we were, the development we ended up living in was close to where.
Yeah, it was close to mine. Yeah.
We
might have pointed out specific areas or something.
Yeah. And so we went and met with the house people and, Yeah.
Cause wasn't that new construction as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, there was some houses already there, but they were still
I know, but
that area, that neighborhood. Yeah. And so I did a fill-in issue on Sojourn.
Yep.
And that's Roland Parasink, that, as I recall. And then and I remember Bart went in and made Sojourn's butt bigger on the cover, which really pissed me off. But anyway, and then he's like, she's got to have a bigger booty. And I'm like, what? And it was just with this big bulbous butt he put on her. But anyway, and so then I did one issue of Mystic. And that's when they said, well, Matt Ryan's ink. And I had no idea who Matt Ryan was. And the inks came back and I was like, oh my gosh, where's this guy been all my life? And
X-Men.
So then we moved to January. And, I was, it was just a monthly grind after that.
He was thinking Andy Kubert till Andy sold his ass out.
Yeah, Matt Ryan's
That's why he's so good.
Yeah,
Now hold on a second here. I just pulled up the cover that you did. Wait, where is it? Let me do entire screen. You mean this one?
Yeah, he just made her hips bigger, like that right or her left, or yeah, right
the one
there.
kicking out towards the dude.
Yeah. I think I had a smooth line from the hip all the way down to the thigh, and he put that little like extra
the
bump
little dimple in
more booty, and I was like, come on, man.
Yeah, that's very slight correction and be like, come on, dude, what's the difference? It's comic book artwork.
Get over
comic books.
So her boobs are big enough, so what do you care about her hips, man?
I'd still be angry.
That's right.
I think I'm with you, Alo.
That's right. He's on your side. Was that the only book you did before you got on Mystic? Was this one issue of Sojourn?
Well, I was hired to take over Mystic, but like that transition, I guess, because they knew Brandon was leaving because he was not gonna be art directing more. He was gonna work on what was that thing that he was working on, his own project?
Oh God, I'm blanking on the name, but no, you took over. Yeah, Chimera. Didn't you take over Mystic from Fabrizio?
Yeah, I guess I did.
Right.
Oh,
yeah, Fabrizio. Brandon already left. Fabrizio was doing it, and he was. I can't remember what he because it's not like he left. He did something. But yeah, you took over from him.
Right.
I know Tony
didn't he have to just go home? Didn't he have to go home because of his visa?
Maybe, but Andrea never did. So maybe it was a different type of situation.
Well, Fabrizio, I know he did a fill-in on Sigil. So
yeah.
So they were trying to keep him busy.
Yeah.
Well, I remember the first conversation I had with Brandon Peterson. He was like, yeah, Aaron, I'm looking at your work on Mystic, and I can see that you're, trying to emulate what I was doing, but you need to find your own voice. I almost punched him in the face. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I said, I haven't even looked at your stuff. I don't even know what you're talking about. The first 3 issues we did of Mystic were, Tony goes, what do you want to draw? And I go, dinosaurs and cavemen. And he goes, so we drew Mystic like in cave it wasn't even in a regular costume. Remember, I designed that like cave girl costume for, and Brandon's like, yeah, you'll get your own voice eventually. And I just was like, you are this close, man. This close. Couldn't believe it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I feel for Rob having to work in a hallway because I wrote the first couple of issues on Sigil on the community computer that was in the middle of the class.
Oh yeah.
I remember I'm writing the script and then somebody's over my shoulder like watching me, and I thought they were waiting to use the computer, and I turn around and look at them, and then they turn around and announce to everybody, he's writing a script.
Oh my God, I remember that computer now too. Oh, hold on, I got a couple.
There was 2 of them, wasn't there?
They were
next to each other. Yeah, they were next to each other.
Travis Perrick, thanks for the $5. Where's Pelletier at? Did he wimp out? No, I don't have his contact info at all. And Pelletier, just if anybody's wondering, last week G.I. Joe number 306, so technically the new number 6, came out, and Paul drew that, and he's also drawing number 7. It looked really nice.
Wow.
Did you already talk about Mark Wade's temper tantrums? Just the one where he slammed a door and put a hole in the wall. And then another $5, Travis. Thank you. Chuck, how long would CrossGen have lasted if the owner listened to your advice?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Mark admitted, I spent a lot of time with Mark, the last couple of years before he died. And he admitted that he should have listened to me earlier. I remember when I called my wife when I first visited, and she said, "You want to go down there?" And I said, "Yeah, I think it's going to last about 2 years because they already see the mistakes they're making." But and it was all bad advice. He just got bad advice from people that really didn't know what they were doing, and so yeah, I don't know. Mark's financial situation and everything else, it was just bad. It was the bad scene, and quite frankly, it was worse for him than anybody. You know, I know
Sure.
people lost money, and you know, people got kicked in the ass by CrossGen financially. But you know, who hasn't in comics? You know, this is an industry where you get burned by this guy, and then you get burned by that guy.
Right.
And you know, to me, Mark never burned anybody except himself. You know, I mean, he really, you know, took one for the team financially. So
he kept it open a lot longer than, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he kept trying
Out of loyalty. Out of loyalty.
I told him, I said, it's like we were rowing to shore and we just never got to Paradise Island. I mean, the tide was against us. Just couldn't do it. Because, I mean, there were so many deals in play that were so close, and every one of them failed. If even one of these things that he was working on and going through, the company would still be around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, my thought was, and you know, I knew a little more. You knew definitely a lot more than I did, but I just thought it was just expanding too quickly, you know, because it went from.
That was one of the mistakes I saw.
Yeah.
And I also saw being a big presence at the conventions, big mistake. Way too much money being spent. The other thing was directly going at Marvel and DC. Like, we're going to challenge. No, don't even say that. I mean, Dark Horse never said that. You know, IDW never said that.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't just do your thing and find your audience. And you know, but there are other things going on. It just didn't make any sense to me. But the thing is, it was this grand experiment. We all benefited from it. You know, career wise, and also you know, whatever time you spent at CrossGen was awesome.
Yes.
You know, I'm with Rob. I miss my office every day.
Yeah.
No,
I do. I still think about that cubicle with Andy always hassling me and harassing me constantly.
And the thing is that Mark wanted that for us.
Yeah.
You know, he wanted us to have benefits. He wanted us to have regular pay. He wanted us to have some sort of security, but you know, it didn't work out. And nobody's ever going to try this one again.
No. Well, when I found out that, hey, you're getting a salary and you're getting benefits, I was like, this isn't going to last. Because it just, the money was, you had to know that the money, unless, like you said, Chuck, something with Hollywood came through, or toy company or something like that, that the comics themselves would not generate enough money to cover it. And what we found out real quickly was that the best-selling book was Sojourn or whatever, and it was selling like 22 to 25,000 a month. And you just saw that when we started expanding, you could see everybody's numbers dropping. So you had the same core CrossGen buyers, but now their money was spread out, you know? And so it was like, we're not building an audience. We've got an audience that we created, but they can't handle this many books.
Well, there's another thing. It was the philosophy of the company. I mean, it starts out with this Uber story, which really dragged down sales across the board. Because you kept being told all these stories connected to one big story, which you know, to me as a reader, like, well, where do I start? Why do I want to get involved with this? You know, I got other things going on in my life, and but what CrossGen evolved to be was a genre company, because you know, we were doing barbarians, we were doing science fiction, we were doing fantasy, we were doing spies, you know, and you know, mysteries, and people were digging that we were a genre company, but Mark wouldn't let us be a genre company. And the proof of the pudding is when we did El Cazador, that was the biggest selling title we ever had. It sold 53,000 copies.
Oh, did it really?
Oh, wow.
And it had nothing to do with the Uber story. It was a straight up pirate adventure story. And our readership knew, well, you can trust CrossGen. When they say they're going to do a genre story, it's going to be an earnest attempt. It's not going to be tongue in cheek. It's not going to be silly. It's going to be an earnest genre story. And that's what we should have become. We should have evolved into that. But, you know, it was too late at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the
we
last
had meetings. We had editorial meetings about, well, not editorial because there were no editors, but we had meetings where we would try to convince Mark we have to change gears here and become a genre publisher.
Well, and I think that's the thing too, is he didn't want to cut any book loose. So instead of saying, you know, just pick any of the books, you know, and just going, you know what, let's wrap the story up. We'll take the creative team and we'll start a new book. You know, it was, no, we got to keep going, keep beating that dead horse.
Well, his idea is that our lowest selling title represented our core fan base, and we would say, but it's shrinking. Those sales aren't going up. Our lowest selling book is not a bellwether for the company. It's a warning klaxon that we need to change course.
Mm-hmm.
But he had his own vision, and you can't say stick with it to the end.
Oh yeah. And I mean, definitely the convention thing. The booth was amazing looking, and the conventions were real fun and stuff. But same thing. I mean, we know what that stuff costs, and it ain't cheap.
Yeah, so flying all of us out there,
Yeah.
You didn't. I mean, it was $1 million dropped for every convention.
Yeah, that's a quick burn.
That booth cost $20,000 every time they moved.
Yeah.
I mean, it was insane. I mean, and at the time, nobody else was setting up. Marvel didn't have a booth. DC didn't have a booth. Nobody was setting up anymore.
Yeah. I remember we would just to take breaks and stuff, because everybody took breaks during the day to do different stuff. We'd go out back, like Aaron was saying, it was basically a rectangular type building. And then in the back was just kind of like this field, and we'd go out back and toss the football around and stuff for a little bit, play chess. We had a chess board because for people watching, the layout was a bunch of quads, and the quad had 4 artist tables, and the artist table was facing a God, I have a picture somewhere.
A divider.
Well, there was a divider to the side, so you could look out into the center of the square quad, and then in front of you was a nice overhead bookshelf and whatnot above your drafting table, and then in the center of the quad was a little rectangle conference table, like 4 foot long, with 4 chairs
for team meetings.
And in mine, it was myself. This is before we moved to that other building next door. It was, originally it was myself, Mike Attia, because the whole concept was put a creative team to a quad. Right. So it was myself, Mike Attia, the colorist, Bart, who was penciling, and then Rob came in and took the desk behind me. Mm-hmm. And then eventually, Aaron, when you came in,
I was in there with you, wasn't I?
You were, and I think that the room was there for you to sit there, because I think that's when Bart might have went into. That's when Brandon got positioned up. Bart took over as art director, so he moved into Brandon's old office or something like that.
Jeff moved into Jeff Johnson.
Jeff was in with us as well.
Cubicle, and then Alo was off to through my wall to the if I could stare through my wall. Well, he was right on the other side. Alo. Yeah, he was on the other side. Yeah.
Because Epting was, I faced this way. Epting was here, and then the colorist. Darn it.
Frank
and Rick.
What was her name? The great colorist. What's her name?
Oh, Laura.
Laura was there, Martin, and then Frank was right next to her. That loudmouth, and then and then Perkins was over there, and then you were right behind me, right? Isn't that how it went in that quad? There was
I thought you were in the same quad.
Who?
Steve Epting and Frank D'Armato were in the same quad.
They were.
Okay, maybe Laura wasn't in there. Laura wasn't in there. Maybe it was.
No, Laura was.
Frank.
Laura was. Oh man, where was?
It was weird because we got messed up
when
I moved in.
Front of the building.
She was, because the thing that happened was, it was good that the quads were set up with. I got to remember, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tables.
Yeah, there was 5 in there.
There was 5 tables, and they did that on purpose. So for overflow, because like I said, when I started, it was just 3 of us, because, Ron and Barbara had offices, so he didn't need a table on the quad. We only had, for lettering the books, it was Troy and Dave. So they had their own little
office
quad area with, I think her name was Pam, who did production stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. So she was with them. So we had 2 empty, almost every quad had 2 empty areas for expansion. So when Rob came, okay, put him over here and, move the pieces like that. And then there were just extra quads anyhow. So, when there were just the first initial, 5 books when I got there, there was still like one that was like totally empty. So then when Steve got there, because I think Steve and Butch were in the same one.
Mm-hmm.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah, for a while. And that's where Frank
Laura
was and Rick
Frank
was as well. And then, when Ben and, and then people Ben and Ray didn't last long. So then that opened up space for Dale Eaglesham. Scott Eaton. Yep.
He was next to his anchor.
Yep.
Yeah, there was.
Andrew.
I think it was set up like that originally, but then, like you said, when people started leaving and new people started coming in, it was kind of like they put us where there was room, So there was we didn't have the teams together like that, but it wasn't that big a deal because I could just walk over to Matt Ryan's quad, hand him pages, and go, "You do this or whatever." Then go talk to my colorist. Gosh darn it, what was his name? Bald guy. He's still doing really good work.
Was it Crossley?
Oh no, it was James, wasn't it?
No.
Oh,
James Rochelle.
No, I didn't have Rochelle.
Did you have Andrew Crossley coloring?
No. I'm gonna go look at my books. Andrea. No. Who was the?
Nope. I don't remember either. Yeah.
I remember the other colors. You had Nick Bell. You had Sumi Pack.
I worked with Sumi on the first.
Mm-hmm.
Nick.
Andy made her cry.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
Will Quintana.
I might have. I don't know. No, she was.
Yeah, Will Quintana. Yeah.
There's Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's in the chat. He's Will. Yeah, Will
Oh, Matt, I should have sent you the link. But if I remember right, Aaron's like, "Oh, Matt's in the middle of nowhere. He probably can't even."
I can't remember Bam Bam's real name.
That's what he said, Matt.
I didn't know.
Oh, Jason Key.
Yeah.
That
guy was a trip.
Oh, that's
right. Dude,
right.
he is. He runs he started a couple years ago. Besides coloring, he does a cosplay show once a year now that he runs.
I don't say that as an insult. The guy was just genuinely entertaining to hang around with.
Oh yeah, Jason's great. Yeah.
You never knew what was going to come out of his mouth. Him and Frank Romano, you just never knew what they were going to say.
I know Frank was like that guy.
Oh my God.
Especially Frank.
Oh,
but no, Jason. I see Jason a couple times. Well, I see him at least once a year. We usually cross paths at a convention.
Yeah.
And he does he lives up in Virginia and he does a cosplay show once a year. It's all just cosplay.
I just remember that story went all over CrossGen when he met Erin Gray, the actress. You remember that?
Oh yeah. Vaguely.
He just meets her at a con and she's got pictures of herself, from 30 years before.
Yeah.
And he just looks at him and goes, "Must be nice to have pictures of yourself when you were young and hot."
That's Jason.
And he meant it with total sincerity. It was no smart. Yeah. Like that's what made it so.
The thing
fun.
with Erin Gray is even when she was old, she was hot. Because I remember, we ran into her at shows all the time, and she was still beautiful.
The MegaCon shows too.
Well, the fight, obviously, I mean, we're talking 20 years ago was CrossGen. So we were all a lot younger, but some of these guys were just in their 20s because that's what Jason was.
Yeah.
Maury Hollowell, great colorist.
Yeah,
just in his 20s. Hell, I think McNiven was in I think Steve was actually early 30s.
Yeah, he started
Middleton might have been in his 20s. Joshua Middleton might have been in his 20s. And that's another one. Like, Josh Middleton didn't stay around long. So then Steve graduated up and took over, Meridian and stuff.
Then he started looking at Travis Charest.
And then he exploded.
He's like, "I'm out of here. Too big for this little pond."
That's right.
Yeah, he moved. He moved back, but he was telling me because he was from Nova Scotia, and I saw him at a con a year ago. It was Heroes Con last year, and we were talking about it. And when he left, he said that they were basically won't do it. They're like, "You want to move back home? That's fine. Just keep working for us." Oh, you want to do that? That's fine. Just keep working for us. And,
when I saw his, what was the book he was doing where it was obvious he was looking at Travis? Like there's that one, there's that first issue where he was at CrossGen where it was screaming Travis. He might not have been doing all the rendering, but
wasn't the only book he ever did at CrossGen Meridian?
It might have been because I remember Mark complaining that
I mean, he did a couple.
It looked different all of a sudden. Yeah, but all of a sudden the book looked different because Mark
He
complained
he did a fill-in issue on Sigil.
Yeah.
He did a fill-in on Sigil. Man, I don't remember what other fill-ins he did, if any. It might have just been that. He might have done a couple issues, and then from there it was he took over Meridian, because he took over Meridian pretty quick, if I remember.
Yeah, yeah. But so it was probably Meridian then. I remember just looking over his shoulder and I was just like, oh, I gotta start eking. I don't think he ever liked me. I think I annoyed the shit out of him. But I was just like, dude, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I'm like, man, he is rocking the Travis in these pages. I go, CrossGen probably doesn't even have any idea. They're going to complain that it doesn't look like Meridian anymore. But I'm like, oh, this looks so good.
Yeah, see, this is what I remember. Like, I kind of remember that, but then when he did the Captain America run, that was like, it's got to be 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really very, very Travis heavy, and it's beautiful looking stuff.
Yeah, I got tired of hearing about you guys and your man crush on Travis Charis. I remember telling Scott Eaton, I was like, look, if I had a choice between you and Travis Charis and Sigil, I'd want you. I want you. I like your stuff.
Well, he actually could draw.
The thing with Travis is, I like Travis's work, but he's not like the best storyteller.
No.
Panel to panel.
Doesn't do much either.
It's not comics, it's illustration.
Well, he also would have done one issue of Sigil.
Yeah.
And the whole time he was at CrossGen. Yeah. 6 months. It takes 6 years.
Yeah.
It would have looked beautiful.
Scott was doing it a monthly book.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I said, look, he Charis can't do what you're doing, Scott. He can't do it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the stones to do what you're doing every month.
Nope.
Yeah. No, I mean, Scott was another one, man. He just got in there, put his head down, and got that stuff out, and it looked great.
Who was responsible for the paper? Because the paper was pretty decent. The
CrossGen paper.
CrossGen
paper. Well, remember we had the 2-page spread paper because there's no.
I got some of that. I got some. Well, it's not hanging up now, but I've got a couple of double pagers I did for Mystic that are on that 1-sheet paper, and it's so cool. Yep. But then you realize, how can I transport this? I mean, it's like it's freaking big.
Yeah, I've got originals I inked over Bart, and then I've got spreads that I drew like that. I'm sure, Sergio, you do. I still have your pencils to that first issue of Crux that you did, Sergio, because I just looking at your penciling technique, I was like, oh, that's so nice, because it really gives room for the inker to breathe and do stuff, and Aaron, your stuff's like that too. Your pencils are tight, but there's still room, for stuff to be done to them.
And it was great Danny Mickey. Great Danny Mickey would always tell me he loved inking my stuff because it was like he said it was super tight, but at the same time there was like you said, there was like breathing room in there to go ahead and do whatever he wanted to do, noodly wise. So
yeah.
But I was constantly begging Bart to ink myself.
Oh, hey!
I just
understandable.
Yeah, I would just say, Bart, can I ink myself? Can I ink myself?
Oh, yeah.
We used to go to Sergio.
You did at some point. Didn't you ink yourself at some point or no?
Oh, yeah.
I did. Yeah.
We used to go to Sergio's cubicle and get him to draw caricatures of all of us. Remember that? Because he was
I got
caricatures. Here, draw me next. We were like little kids.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere working with all these talent that you can walk up and see what everybody was working on. It was fantastic, and also the visitors that came, and Frank would imitate Judge Perez, right?
Oh yeah.
The Judge was very lively and very,
and
then Frank would imitate him. Imitation was right on. It was like, man, it was.
And George was oblivious that he was imitating him. That was the funniest part.
Really?
Yeah, he wouldn't realize what Frank was doing. He just thought, there's another guy here. It sounds just like me.
What was the name of I mean, she was a receptionist for a little bit, but she was also kind of an assistant. She had blonde hair. She was younger. The only reason I'm bringing her up is because she was on American Idol
Oh, really?
after,
Really?
it
With
was
she had
after the company
shorter
was,
hair and she was kind of short-ish.
yeah,
Young,
she was
young
shorter,
blonde girl, right?
blonde hair. I remember
Yeah,
she
I know
had
who you
blonde hair.
mean.
She was obviously, she was in her 20s, but I
Yeah.
just remember she made it onto American Idol
Wow.
on TV. She didn't go any further than like the first round or whatever,
Huh.
but it was still cool.
That's
What was
cool.
she
you know.
doing there? I can't even remember now. I remember her. She was super nice, but I can't remember.
I think she was assisting in production.
Okay.
Sarah, that's it. Ashley nailed it. There you go.
Boom.
Sarah,
Sarah.
do we have any videos or any pictures of the place? Because I remember comparing to the Marvel bullpen, CrossGen was extremely dark.
Well, yeah, because all the colorists had to have the lights off.
Mhm.
Oh, we got to have the lights off the color. And we were just
Yeah.
like, I mean, that was a constant fight. I mean, that's
I know.
why, honestly, that's why my buddy Brad Vincata, that's why he quit. That is literally why he
It
quit.
was very dark there.
He couldn't deal with it. He's like, he pulled me outside because, you know, we were expanding. We needed another anchor. I was talking to Brad and I said, you know, I think you'd be a good fit here. It was right after, it was a few months after his wife passed away. And it was just like, you know, dude, I think you just need a change of pace, change of scenery. Because he was in California. I think it might do you some good. And we talked about it. So he was finally like, okay, you can put my name out there. And, you know, he talked to Mark, whatever. And he did. He came and worked out there. But then I don't think it's when he first started, but at some point it was when, I don't even know how it came about, but it was like lights off, colors need all the lights off. And it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was like
And-
drawing at night all the time in the dark.
Yeah.
You know, we had these
Right.
like
Yeah.
little spotlights
As if we were in a photographer's dark room.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what
Yeah. And
You
I
didn't
remember it
go-
was,
you have to go to the lunchroom and where the writers met and stuff just to get light. You know,
Yeah.
they kept the lights on in the front of the building, but everything else was just pitch dark. Or you'd go in where the gals worked that did the like health insurance and stuff because their lights were on.
oh yeah.
Well, didn't Brad also, like, even when he did the tour, he said, "Oh my God, this reminds me of like 3 other startup companies I've worked at."
I mean, he might have, I don't
Like,
remember, but
I think he knew there's an expiration date. I don't think he
I-
wanted to.
I'd have to ask him. I don't think I know he didn't last the year.
I know he told me that. He said, "Man," he goes, "this is they're spending too much money on shelving and chairs, stuff like that." Like weird.
You know
stuff.
what? He
Wrong
okay,
for.
so I know in the contract because you know they paid our movie expenses and stuff.
Yeah, he had to pay that back or something, right?
I remember him coming to, well, like I said, he pulled me outside. He goes, I got to talk to you. And I was like, okay. And we went outside and he told me, he goes, I'm going to quit. And I go, what? It's only been, a couple of months, whatever it was. And he's like, you know, I'm not a big schedule guy. And he's not. And that wasn't the main issue. The main issue was he goes, I can't work in the dark. I just can't do it. I've asked to have the lights turned on because Brad's a straight by the book guy, you know. And when he says he asked, he means he would run it up the official ladders, you know, with his complaints and stuff. And he goes, I can't do it. I can't work in the dark like
Now
this.
the offices were lit, right?
Oh,
Chuck's
yeah.
office.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The individual
They
offices.
closed.
Yeah.
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 And then we
And
had
yeah, he quit. And he did have to.
was lit.
The lunchroom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the lunchroom
was
was
always
huge
on.
too. So that was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he quit. But I think he was supposed to pay it back. But I think, you know, I don't think Mike was the original CFO wasn't hammering it like, no, too bad. I don't know. I'd have to ask him to be honest.
They didn't enforce that. They would have enforced it on Wade. Because
Yeah,
if
that's
they didn't enforce it on Wade, the company could have stayed open another year.
Yeah.
All that shit he moved down to Florida. My God.
Oh yeah. Well, I will say this: when he turned, it had to be his 40th birthday. I don't know how old he is, but I'm assuming it was his 40th birthday just from how long he was in the business and stuff before then. I got to admit, he rented a limo, and it was myself, Helen, and I can't remember who else, but other people from the company. We all went out and had a great night for his 40th birthday. So,
Who's it? Wade?
you know,
Mark Wade? Mark Wade?
Yeah.
Who Cool.
Yeah, it was good times, you know.
For a short period.
For short period. Then he lost his. God, he would lose his stack over stuff. Good Lord. But I was going to ask you, Chuck, because you were in with all the writing stuff. Was there a overall, I don't know, somebody in the chat said earlier, I guess, like end game for the overarching story with the sigils and stuff? Or
There were binders full of stuff. And we were supposed to read all of them. I never read them. I would just include enough references to the sigil in every story to make everybody happy.
Right.
Because I remember, you had the sigil bearer character, this mystic character had to be in every book. And I remember in Way of the Rat, when I made it a talking monkey, Mark hit the ceiling because he wanted to be an attractive woman. And I said, I think we got enough of them, but then he totally turned around. And when the book came out and he read some of them, he fell in love with that freaking monkey. So
yeah,
the book was great.
And then I got in trouble because we started writing a letter column, and that was Gina's job. And we started having Popo the monkey answer the letters.
I remember that.
She hated it. I think if Ashley's still listening, I think Ashley thought they were funny, and that's why we kept on doing
Popo the monkey.
No, I mean, honestly, Way of the Rat was a great book.
Well, that was magic because, when I first got hired on my first day, they said, you need to create a period martial arts fantasy set in, our version of China. I'm like, okay, that's pretty specific. And they said, well, we're working on this deal with this Chinese telecom company. We want to have a book they like. I'm like, okay, cool. And I think originally I was supposed to do with Daryl Banks. And then they brought Jeff on. And that's when the magic happened, man. I mean, Jeff just...
I think Daryl just didn't want to... I don't think Daryl really wanted to move.
Yeah.
Because once... I'll have to... he'll be at Heroes Con in a few weeks. I'll have to ask him. But I think even when he was working on Green Lantern, Daryl told me that he had a teaching gig that he was doing at the same time.
Yeah, I think
it was like Leonardi, because we wanted to have Rick Leonardi move down.
Oh, wow.
And Rick was like, my wife's an established doctor.
Right. Yeah, she was teaching, I think, at Villanova. So, yeah, I think Banks, his family was all situated and everything else. He didn't want to move.
Yeah.
So, but Jeff showed up, it was magic time because, he made that book what it was.
Yeah, and when Jeff first came down, he did 1.5 issues. He did a full issue of Ruse. Yeah, I remember Paul Neary inked it. And then he started Crux, but then Way of the Rat either got pushed up on the schedule or something, because I remember they pulled him off Crux and they had me finish it. And I think he only did 4, maybe 5 pages of Crux and the cover. And I asked Jeff, I said, can I just, for these first 4 or 5 pages, so we don't lose time on the schedule, do you care if I just redraw over your layouts? And he was like, no, I don't care. So I redrew over his layouts for those first few pages just to keep the schedule going. Because they didn't want to, that was the nice thing too, unless they really, 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 really had to, they didn't want to split up books with multiple artists.
Right.
So instead of having, no, just use Jeff's 5 and you take over and like say page 6, it was do the whole thing, get it done. And I was like, hey, can I just work over your layouts? Now, another nice thing too, and Chuck, you were there the longest, it seems. I don't think we ever shipped the book late either.
No, that never happened.
Yeah,
everything went out on time. I told Mark that a few times. I said somehow, 90% of the guys here are self-starters, and all you got to do is tell them when that shit's got to be in the FedEx box, and they're good to go. You don't have to ride them, and
right.
And I don't know how that happened. Because you throw a rock in this business and you're going to hit a deadline deadbeat. A guy who has no idea how a calendar works.
Right.
And somehow he, you, Aaron, Sergio, Rob, Epting, all these guys who just, okay, page a day, boom, 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 boom. And that was a miracle.
Yeah, there were a few times that What's that, Sergio?
Now we had time to go out together, go to the comic book store on Wednesdays, and then
Yes.
Oh yeah,
eat pizza at the
Yeah.
pizza.
Oh,
place.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
yeah.
What was the
Good.
place, man?
Yeah,
Wait, you're
I
not
remember-
talking about Cece's Pizza?
That's it.
No, he's talking
No,
about
no,
the pizza
no.
place.
No.
That might actually be a West
Was
Shore.
it West Shore Pizza?
West Shore.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
it's a
West
West Shore
Shore.
pizza.
But I remember we were all
No.
going to the comic shop, you know, and the people running the comic shop would just ignore us. You know? Like you got all this like mega talent hanging out in your comic shop, spending money every week, and you just act like they're not there.
Well, there's two type of comic book stores. There's the comic book store owner who wants to be the top of the pyramid, and then there's the comic book store owner who wants the creators
Yeah,
because they created the fucking books and they
Right.
do the books every month. But
right.
some of those
Right.
comic book store owners, they think they're the chief. They don't
Well,
want
also,
they don't
I-
want the fans.
Yeah, I don't
No.
think we were making the kind of comics they wanted to read.
No, yeah,
Right.
we weren't doing Captain America and Spider-Man.
Yeah,
But if
Yeah.
if CrossGen, if that the tier of books that started showing up when you came, Chuck, to CrossGen, if that was the initial launch, CrossGen would still be around.
Yeah, I was going to say I think the best books, other than I think Ruse was a pretty good idea, but the stuff that you like, that samurai book that Bart and Ron Mars were doing,
Oh,
and
the
Way
Path,
of the
yeah.
Rat,
Yeah.
and the pirate book, and
Even
You know,
the
what me
Bang
and Tony
Bang
were doing on Mystic. I mean, those
negation.
were, yeah, those
Those
should
were
have been the
awesome.
books at the beginning, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that
But-
goes back to the whole thing of not cutting bait. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
some of
yeah.
those first 4 books, you know, Meridian probably should have been canned after like the first story arc, you know, or at least even if you want to give it a year. I mean, you can tell by a year because we all know how it goes. First issue comes out, sales are, you know, what they are. Second issue drop, third drop because of how solicitations are. But if the book's good, 4 picks back up. You know, issue
Right.
4 would pick back up, and then if it's good, the numbers would rise from there.
What was the book that Bart and Mark Pennington worked together on?
That was
the
the
samurai
Path.
ones.
Path.
The
Yeah.
samurai book.
Path, yeah.
Because I remember seeing those pages. They were amazing.
The first should have been an annual. That could have been an
Yeah.
annual, just the gods like looking over everything.
right.
Could have
Yeah.
been an annual once a year. That would have been great instead.
The first issue that Bart did with Mark Pennington,
Mhm.
it could easily be published black and white.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was practically fine art.
Yeah, it was really
Well, and
good.
the thing that's you know, now Marvel has all this stuff, and Marvel just put out that big fat sigil omnibus. And
Mhm.
Rob, it's funny. Rob and I were talking on the phone yesterday, and he goes, "Hey, did you get royalties on that sigil omnibus?" And I'm like, "No, dude, I got the email last night.
Oh, did you? Yeah,
It was with a big breakdown of everything else I got royalties for from Marvel,
Oh,
but it was
did.
there."
Mine was I got a Marvel check for the breakdowns of the quarter. Like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, the sigil check was completely separate. It was just sigil, and it said
Yeah.
sigil omnibus, and it's like 5 different listings. So
Yeah, that was
No,
a pretty sweet check for me because I wrote over half of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I eat one issue over Andy.
Dude, I drew
stuff.
2 issues, and the check I got, I was like, "Oh, that's nice," or that
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
And then I
hope they
think,
keep doing them.
well, that's where I was going with this. Is if I remember right, didn't Marvel solicit a Mystic
Yeah.
omnibus or no?
Yeah.
No, they did, but
did.
it was. Didn't they like do a mini series or something? But it was totally revamped and didn't.
Yeah,
look
but that's
anything
like
Yeah.
that was like 5
Years.
years ago. I
They
think.
did Sojourn
'Cause they
and
did it with
and
Ruse as
something else.
well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But no, what I was going to say is, I mean, they should. They did. Why they chose Sigil as the first omnibus, I don't know.
Chuck.
But they've got all that
Chuck.
stuff. They should just put the omnibuses out of all that crap.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
why
Well,
not?
they will because they've got to keep the copyright and trademark.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the fact that they're profitable, obviously they're profitable. We all got checks off. It.
Yeah.
So, there's
Yeah.
no reason not to keep doing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I would like to
no,
have had 1 sent to me, but I only drew 2 books, so I understand. But still,
You guys, I gotta take off. I gotta get ready for Graybeards, but I will say, I'll leave this in a parting note. Jeff Johnson and I used to joke about how, because we worked at the same startup companies, like 3 or 4 together, and how we would sync companies every time we got together. It was like positive and negative antibodies, and it would blow up the universe, because we started working at Blackthorn Publishing at the same time. It was our first jobs, and they went under. We worked at Malibu, and they went under. I think we worked at Valiant, and they went under. And then here we are at CrossGen. I remember we were going under. We were just like laughing, going, "It must be us."
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
Thanks,
maybe
Lopez.
But then before you go, why don't you tell us what you do now, Aaron? Because you
give us a pitch.
What you do. Yeah,
feel free.
I am a self-publisher now. I am the new Mark Alessi, except I'm not hiring anybody. Empire Comics, Kit Carter graphic novel. I got on Indiegogo right now. Guys are posting it in the chat, and I appreciate that very much. So that I've only got about 5 pages to go on that. And so and Matt Ryan of CrossGen fame is inking. So it looks really, really nice. It was a nice little reunion for us. And but yeah, I'll be done with that pretty soon, at least the early production part of it, having it being drawn, and then of course all the other stuff that goes with that to get it all together for the printer. But and then I got Graybeard Studio, which is the best draw stream on the internet, you guys, and it'll be up in about 30 minutes on my channel, but I got to go get cleaned up.
There you go. And we'll be wrapped up before then, so you guys can all jump over there, but he's got to get ready for it. What's the topic today, Aaron?
Top Cow Studios. The people voted for Top Cow characters, so I don't know, Witchblade, something like that. I don't even know any of them. I gotta like
if you don't draw Witchblade, I'll be so disappointed in you. It's not even funny.
Well, is there any character that they created that didn't have like some cyber stuff on them? I mean, I hate drawing
the goblins.
Every
you could do the.
one.
Oh my god, dude, Witchblade! It's all made up, just line work stuff.
Okay, all right.
Aaron, do this. Google Adam Hughes Witchblade, because the way he did her texture was like alien.
Okay.
You know.
So it's not,
and he did this great shot of her, and he did the big alien hands covering up her boobs.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. All right, I'll dig that up. All right, guys, it was great catching up with everybody. See you guys.
See you later, Aaron.
Thanks, Andy. See you guys.
I can't believe he's not drawing Darkness monsters. He loves monsters.
I know. He'll figure it out. God.
Well, he's going to try to sell the Witchblade drawing, so he'll draw Witchblade so he can sell it later.
That's what I'm talking about. He should draw Witchblade, because that's a sell for sure.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like, I guess in closing or whatever, I always tell people when they ask, I wish it was still going around. I think it'd be so cool, these 20 years later, to just, obviously we'd all be in, well, 2, 3, you 3 are still in Florida, but I'd still be in Florida, and, going in and being like, hey, here we are. I think it was ahead of its time in a way too, and not from the standpoint of what he was trying to do, but you look at a lot of the indie companies that are out now. Now, he was the only one that did bring everybody under one roof and so on and so forth. But there are so many publishers, smaller companies out that are doing 4 or 5 books a month, independent comics that, and I don't obviously know anything about their business model and money or anything, but these are companies that have been around for a few years now, and they're putting stuff out, and it's not some of the artists I've never heard of, but it's not bad either. It's not like in the 80s where you could be like, oh, it's an independent company, which you just look at it and go, and you can tell.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, and I just wonder if, like, even back then, if the ship could have been righted, I think it could have still been around, and like you said, Chuck, if some of the deals came through or something too.
It was also we were a few years ahead of, if CrossGen had happened just a few years later, I think it would have been a big success. Because think about it, the digital comics, we're doing those compendiums, things like that. Would come along later. Also, if we did nothing else, we improved the look of American comics in general.
Yes.
Because comics just did not look as good as CrossGen comics until CrossGen.
Yes.
No,
And
that's
everybody
true.
else is like, hey, I mean, this is what comics can look like, and then that's it. So we set a standard there.
Raise the bar.
Yep.
No, I was going to totally agree. You look at, look at the guys that came in that were established guys, art wise.
Right.
And with how we upped the game with coloring, you just look at it and compare to like what they were doing before they came over. And it really showed what good production value, coloring and everything, and just the cohesion of everybody working together. And, one thing that wasn't mentioned, but on the partition wall next to our desk, it was pretty much a mandate that for the artists across the board, penciler, inker, colorist, once you finish a page, if you're a penciler or inker, go to the photocopier, photocopy it 8.5 by 11, tack it on the wall. If you're the colorist, print it out, tack it on the wall. And it was twofold. It was so Mark could walk around every morning and not have to bug and just, bug the person, but just glance at the wall and go, oh, they're 15 pages in. Oh, 5 pages in. Oh, the inker is 2 behind or whatever. But then just as artists walking around, you're like, oh, look what that guy's doing.
Yeah, that was a very good incentive and inspiration to be in one spot with so much talent together.
Yes.
I learned. It was a great idea. It was probably the redo of what Will Eisner and Joe Kubert and some of the masters did in the early maybe
golden age.
When they had those studios with all these
studios
and stuff.
Jim Aparo was working together with other people. Alex Stoltz, whatever. It was a fantastic idea.
Plus, we had all of our toys and our artwork and our comics there.
Oh yeah, I mean that was the other thing. People really decked out their workspaces and stuff.
Oh yeah, mine was fantastic.
Cool to see what people were interested in. I mean, Rob hanging up porn.
Mine's the same as it is now. It's a hurricane of creativity and destruction.
I kept bringing
nothing has changed
to mind. Remember,
Oh yeah.
Remember Pelletier with the life-size Elvis bust with the Medusa head on top of it?
Yeah.
Well, it's honestly, CrossGen set the standard. Honestly, if you are a giant company who needs a merchandising outlet and you set up a budget to lose a certain amount of money every year, create a comic book company and give us a call. But this isn't going to be for profit.
Right.
We'll lose if you need to lose $2 million a year. We'll lose you $2 million a year. If you need to lose $4 million, whatever the number is, we'll lose it for you, and we'll do it year after year, and we'll be happy, and we'll have lots of fun.
Well, no, Rob, you're pitching it all wrong. You're saying if you want to lose money, no. If you want a nice tax write-off,
there you go.
You know who to call.
It's the same thing. That's what their tax accountant will decipher it as.
Elon Musk.
We had that dinner at that.
You want to start a company?
We had that dinner at that country club. And Mark made a speech, and he started the speech with, "I'm a wealthy man." And Perez turned to me and said, "We'll take care of that."
Yeah. I remember that. I remember at that country club, everybody got really dressed up for it.
Oh yeah.
We had to.
Yeah. We were forced to.
Yeah.
And had to show up too.
Yeah. But that was fun, And I mean, he had parties at his house and stuff that were.
I never saw those. That was.
Yeah, I never saw those.
That was too late. Oh. That was later. That was later when it was already things were different. Yeah.
Well, they were fun.
The company was smaller, so you could have people at his house.
That's true. That's true.
And people like me show up. You're not inviting Rob to your house. No.
That's right. All right, I'm going to answer. Okay, so Jay Dredd, last question. Paul Pelletier. Just if you get the new G.I. Joe series that Skybound is putting out, Kirkman's part of Image Comics, issue 306 came out last week, and Paul drew that, and he's also drawing 307. And from, in the letters column they always have like the editors or writer, kind of do a little intro before getting to the letters. It seemed to say that Paul might be like a regular on it, maybe rotating or something. Maybe I'm wrong, but he's doing 2 issues of G.I. Joe.
Cool.
But what's the real question? Is Paul as grumpy as he was then?
Oh, I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure he is.
I haven't talked to Paul in years. I haven't talked to Paul in probably 6 or 7 years. I haven't talked to Scott Eaton since CrossGen ended.
Yeah, I miss Scott.
I couldn't tell you where Tom Ryder is. Any clue? Anyone?
Probably doing cool stuff for Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
because isn't that what he was? He was doing storyboards for their animation department.
So.
Maybe.
So he probably just went right back. He probably went right back there. After 20 years, he's probably moved up the ladder.
Yeah, making real money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, guys, this was a blast. I love talking this stuff.
It was great.
I hope it was fun, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to join and talk about it and reminisce. Plus, besides Rob, I see him once a week, which is kind of sickening. I haven't seen Sergio and Chuck in a while. So
I know.
Have we seen Chuck's deal with the movie or no? We talked about.
Oh, we can bring it up. We can pimp anything we want at the end of the show. So besides the movie, besides the movie being shot, Chuck, what you got going on besides that?
On Friday, Graham Nolan and I are launching the next Joe Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And Joe Bennett and I this summer will be launching from the Rippaverse, the Horseman. Our kind of Batman Punisher character. So that's fun.
Cool.
You should get
what about you, Sergio? What's happening in your end of the world?
Well, I'm still doing some Christian stuff for Focus on the Family and some other Christian publishers. I'm also penciling something that Chuck wrote for Comics Matter.
For Splato Comics, Richard Meyer.
Oh, cool. I assume you're inking it too. You said penciling, but
yeah, it's always a deal breaker with me now. Unless I
mean, that's how I am. I ink my own stuff.
You do? Okay, Rob. Sorry, but Rob. But I think Rob did a fantastic work inking something that Chuck did with. I don't know. I forgot the name of the book, but it was a
Ninja Bear.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That was a fantastic book, man.
I'm writing a sequel to that right now. So.
Fantastic.
That was Mel Ruby, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and Mel can work on it right now. Mel's free now.
Cool. Okay. Well, I wrote 2 issues.
Well, okay. You have to tell Tom that though.
Yeah, but he knows that I handed them in. They paid me. They must.
No. I mean that. Mel could start.
Okay. I will let him know as soon as we get off here.
I mean, he knows that, but still,
I'll press.
And
yes,
of course, you're doing your own stuff too, right?
Yep. I was gonna Rob. What's going on, Rob? Death Raider, of course.
Oh, Death Raider! I get to do it all. I get to pencil it, ink it, gray marker it, color it, letter it, write it, design it. It's a blast.
All right, and you can still back it. So go check out Death Raider. Somebody will post it, I'm sure. And then I'm doing KOR-DRATH, The Awakening, the follow-up to KOR-DRATH, The Reckoning, Barbarian Badassery. So go check that out. Links are in the description below. Website information for Chuck and Sergio, and then links for Rob and I are in the description below. So go back that stuff. And then Friday, I know you're looking around noon, if I remember right. Graham said.
Yeah.
So if he shares the link, you'll see me. I'll pop in.
Okay. Cool.
So we all doing what we enjoy doing. It's still that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was inking a page before this started. So now I got to go help my daughter with some of her college stuff. So
all right,
man.
Fun times. All right. Well, I'm not even going to play anything at the end. I'm just going to hit end. So we've got about 7 seconds. Once I hit it, bye everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. And Dennis will be back in 2 weeks. I actually have an appointment next week at 3:00, but maybe I'll do something earlier. Thanks for joining.